If there is one thing that comic book characters are good at, it's dying. In fact, they're almost as good at dying as they are at coming back to life. And those superheroes tend to survive most encounters. After all, the writers have to keep the cash cow alive. Villains, on the other hand, die quite frequently, though normally they don't actually stay that dead for that long.
Miss me?
To qualify to be on this list, they must be a DC supervillain, and each supervillain can only be mentioned once. And with that out of the way, let's get started. Number 5, Johnny Quick. Now this is actually one of my favourite Batman moments of all time because, well, it's just such a badass moment. The heroes have gone to an alternate dimension where the Justice League is called the Crime Syndicate, and they're the bad guys. Now Batman's counterpart is Owlman, who has a bomb that will destroy all of reality, and he's doing this because
man is a cancer, and I've chosen to cut out the disease.
Well, really it's because he's insane, so there isn't really a reason. But in order for Batman to get to him to stop him from detonating the bomb that will destroy all of reality, a speedster has to vibrate at just the right speed for quite a long length of time. Now Batman stops the Flash from doing it, saying that he knows his limits and he knows that he isn't fast enough. And so the Flash's counterpart, Johnny Quick, must do it instead. But after Batman has returned from his mission, successful of course, it's revealed that Johnny Quick has vibrated at the right speed for so long that he has aged himself into an old man, with only seconds left to live.
You knew this was gonna happen. Good one, mate.
Number 4, Darkseid. When it comes to powerful villains in the DC universe, Darkseid is as powerful as they come. But unfortunately, Darkseid's forces were weakened following an attack on the new gods of New Genesis, and Brainiac saw this and took advantage of it, and launched an attack on Darkseid's planet, Apokolips. So Darkseid then asked the Justice League for aid, which Superman doesn't want to give, and to be completely honest, I think he actually had the right idea, especially considering the fact that Darkseid had abducted Superman, brainwashed him into thinking he was Darkseid's son, and then had him lead an attack against Earth. Superman of course eventually broke free of this mind-washing and went back to defeat Darkseid, but understandably he doesn't want to help him out. But unfortunately for him, the others convince him otherwise.
Brainiac has already destroyed countless civilizations and now he threatens another. Do you want this to be the legacy of your people?
But unsurprisingly, it turns out to be a double cross, and it turns out that Darkseid has traded his planet's safety to Brainiac in exchange for Superman's body.
As promised, I've delivered Superman into your hands.
Though Darkseid then double-crosses Brainiac, which to be fair he really should have seen coming considering what just happened. But using a father box to rewrite Brainiac's code, Darkseid is able to take control of him and all of his technology on his ship. Then the rest of the Justice League arrive to save Superman. Unfortunately during the fight they set off a chain reaction that's going to cause the entire ship to explode. Now the other Leaguers leave, but Superman and Orion stay to finish off Darkseid once and for all.
Because this time, I won't stop until you're just a greasy smear on my fist.
And just before the ship explodes, Batman comes back for Superman and Orion, and he does it just in time.
Loser.
And this time, Darkseid is actually dead and gone for good. That is, until Lex Luthor accidentally resurrects him. You see, in this continuity, Lex Luthor had previously been merged with Brainiac, which made him both immortal and the smartest being alive. Literally. That is, until the Flash used his fastest speed blast to separate Lex Luthor molecules from Brainiac's, with the Flash nearly dying in the process. But Lex Luthor wants to go back to being the smartest being alive.
I'm going to be a god again.
So he intends to resurrect Brainiac to merge with him once more. And he uses science and sorcery to do this, but he accidentally resurrects Darkseid instead.
It seems I have you to thank for my resurrection. Though your world will suffer slowly, I grant you a quick death.
Darkseid then decides to attack Earth in revenge, and he tries to kill Superman personally, and he gets pretty close to be fair, managing to trap Superman in an energy field. Darkseid then pulls out a kryptonite knife and tells Superman that he's going to carve out his heart and stick it on a pike in his throne room. That is until Lex Luthor, of all people, saves him. And Lex Luthor then confronts Darkseid with the one thing that he wants, the anti-life equation. It's never revealed exactly what this is, but both Darkseid and Lex Luthor are engulfed in the anti-life equation and their bodies disappear, though no one knows where they went, and it is possible that they're dead. But as Batman says,
I doubt that either of them died. We saw it this time.
You saw it last time, too.
Number 3. The Reverse Flash. The Reverse Flash actually has 2 deaths that are also 1 death. It's a little confusing, but we'll get to that in a minute. In the Flashpoint event, the Flash went back in time to save his mother's life, and in doing so he saved her, but he caused ripples throughout time that have changed the world drastically, basically by getting rid of the Justice League, killing some of them, such as Bruce Wayne, who died in the alley instead of his parents, and Wonder Woman has become a bloodthirsty ruler of Themyscira, and she is at war with Atlantis, and Atlantis have pretty much destroyed all of Europe by flooding it. And the Reverse Flash has ultimately won. He hasn't actually caused this all to happen, the Flash has. But he takes a moment to gloat and tell him exactly how he went. Now this Batman is Bruce Wayne's father, Thomas Wayne, who became Batman following his son's death. And this Batman isn't afraid to use guns. And this is the first of the Reverse Flash's deaths. But in the infinitesimal seconds before he dies, the Reverse Flash pulls the Speed Force into his body like he never has before, filling him with as much of the Speed Force power as his body can physically take. And he is able to stretch that moment of him dying into days. Now he can't change his death, but he can make himself more comfortable in death. He does this by running into the timeline, and he emerges in the New 52 film Suicide Squad: Hell to Pay, and he wants to get his hands on Dr. Fate's Get Out of Hell free card. Now I know that sounds a bit silly, like some sort of supernatural game with Monopoly, but you just have to go with it. And Thorne wants this card because, as I said, he can't save his own life, he's already dead, but he can avoid going to hell for eternal torture. Though unfortunately for the Reverse Flash, though most of the Suicide Squad die, Deadshot survives, and he is able to stop him by shooting him through the chest and killing him once again, which sends him back to the moment of his death by Thomas Wayne, and the Reverse Flash dies once and for all. Number 2. The Joker. The film Batman Beyond: Return of the Joker is nothing short of fantastic. The story, the animation, the characters, the actors' performances, all of it is done perfectly. It's one of those rare films that just ticks all of the boxes. And like the Reverse Flash's death, this Joker death actually happens twice. Well, sort of. But again, we'll get to that in a minute. Now, Batman Beyond was a TV show that was set 50 years into DC's future. The world has of course made huge advances, and Batman has grown old and retired.
Never again.
And throughout the show's 3 seasons, the surviving members of Batman's Rogues Gallery appear in one form or another, from the old crippled Bane,
Too many years on Venom. That's what the stuff will do to you.
to the mind-swap Ra's al Ghul in his daughter's body.
In order to save my life, I called upon Talia to undertake the ultimate act of loyalty.
But we never actually see the Joker. True, we see a gang who call themselves the Jokers, but in truth they don't really have any affiliation with the Joker. The actual Joker himself is never even mentioned.
It's funny. I know about all your other major enemies, but you never mention him.
Of course, the reason for the Joker not being mentioned is because they were saving him for the film. And in the film, we learn that the Joker had kidnapped Robin, who at that time was Tim Drake, and he had then tortured Robin and brainwashed him into thinking he was the Joker's son. And when Batman arrives to rescue him, the Joker tries to get Robin to shoot and kill Batman. But Robin is able to break free of his mind-washing, and instead, he shoots the Joker.
That's not funny. That's not...
It's a beautiful yet eerie death that somehow seems appropriate for the Joker's final demise. But it isn't the last of the Joker. Before he was killed, he put a microchip on Tim Drake that rewrote Tim Drake's mind and body. Now, it took a long time for the microchip to finish its programming, but eventually it was able to turn Tim Drake into the Joker, and just in time for him to face the Batman of the future, Terry McGinnis. But much like the Reverse Flash, just as the Joker has won, he decides to stop and gloat, and reveals his plan, including where the microchip was on his body. And so Batman uses the Joker's own electric joy buzzer to fry the chip and return Tim Drake to normal. And so the Joker dies twice, kind of. And his death in this film is definitely one of the best supervillain deaths ever done. And it almost made the top spot, but it was just beaten by number 1, Mr. Freeze. This is another death that occurs in Batman Beyond that is beautifully tragic. A long time ago, Mr. Freeze was exposed to chemicals that made him immortal, so long as he stayed in a sub-zero environment. When his body gets too hot, he dies, but so long as it's kept cold, he'll live forever. Which is why he stays in his freeze suit, as it keeps his body cold. But as the years went on, his body began to deteriorate and rot away, even in a sub-zero environment. And by the time that the doctors were able to stop it, all that was left of Mr. Freeze was his head. But he still didn't die. In fact, he stayed alive for another 50 years as just a head in a jar. Until in the future, scientists are able to clone him a new body, and transfer his mind into it. And at first, things are going great. Mr. Freeze is finally normal once more, and he becomes a productive member of society. Until one of his victims comes out of the woodwork and tries to kill him. Though when Freeze finds out what he's done to the man, he decides not to press charges. And he also decides to fund a charity that is dedicated to helping those that he has hurt in his former life, and it's going to be funded by his life savings.
$500 million, I hear. That's some charity.
But sadly, his body regresses, and he once again can't survive out of a sub-zero environment. He of course returns to the scientists to try and get help, but the scientists then turn around and try to kill him, so they can harvest his organs to find out exactly what went wrong with the cloning process, so that they can stop it from happening again with future clones. You see, the scientists that cloned him didn't actually care about Mr. Freeze himself. They were just using him as a test run to see if the cloning process they had developed would be successful. But before they're able to kill him, Mr. Freeze escapes, and he decides to get revenge on them. So he dons his freeze suit once more, and freezes those who have wronged him.
We were only trying to help you.
Remember, there might be some momentary discomfort.
Freeze then overloads a reactor at Wayne Powers, intending to become evil, and then trying to get revenge on those who hurt him in the first place. It's just a great story. But what do you think? Do you agree with this list? Or is there another supervillain death that you think should have been included? Be sure to let us know in the comments, and I'd just like to say a quick thank you to those who made this video possible by donating to the Needlemass Productions page on Patreon. And as always, thanks for watching, and feel free to subscribe, share, like, and comment.